Welcome to Courage to Change Recovery Partners, LLC, here in Macedonia, Ohio. We treat opiate addiction, either heroin or prescription pain pill addiction, using Suboxone, as well as a heavy emphasis on the 12-step programs of AA and NA, in addition to counseling. Today we're talking about just a brief overview of the 12-step program. It's been around for a long time, since 1938, when Dr. Bob Smith in Akron, Ohio, and Bill Wilson from New York City got together and developed the principles of the 12 steps. Akron is somewhat famous for this, and every year they have a gathering of addicts and alcoholics from all over the world, which is called Founders Day, and they meet at Dr. Bob's house in Akron, as well as various venues throughout the city. Why the 12 steps? Why are they useful? And basically the 12 steps have been adapted to suit a variety of addictions. Humans can pretty much abuse just about any behavior or chemical known to man, and there's probably a 12-step fellowship for that. Worldwide, there's over 200 12-step fellowships. Our focus today is more on Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous has basically been adapted from AA to remove some of the antiquated terms from the 30s when AA was first developed, is to remove the gender bias and some of the God references. Otherwise, they're very similar. The original 12 steps are kind of as follows. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol or drugs, and that our lives had become unmanageable. This is step one. This is key. If you're not at step one, you don't belong here in this program yet. You need to go on and get some more pain and suffering and come back when you understand this intuitively. Step two is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step three is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God or our higher power as we understand Him. Four is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Five is admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others, or ourselves. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and alcoholics and to practice these principles and messages in all our affairs. This whole process is kind of confusing to hear all that. It sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo and gobbledygook, but you can break it down into kind of a few basic concepts, and this is summarized by the American Psychological Association. The individual has to admit that one cannot control his addiction or compulsion. This is step one. Then he admits that a higher power can give him strength. Following that, he examines errors and defects of character in himself with the help of a sponsor or other experienced members. Following that, he makes amends for these wrongs and defects of character. Subsequent to that, he has to learn how to live a new life with a new code of behavior. And finally, most importantly, he needs to help others who suffer from the same addictions and compulsions. We need to seek recovery in the areas of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. For addicts and alcoholics, the physical dimension is best described as an allergy-like bodily reaction, resulting in the compulsion to continue to use substances after the initial use. The first step to powerless over the substance-related use refers to the lack of control over this compulsion, which persists despite ongoing negative consequences that the individual may endure as he still repeats the behaviors. The emotional obsession describes the thought processes that cause the individual to repeat the compulsive behavior even after periods of abstinence, and despite knowing that if he does use again, the result will be an inability to stop, or operating under the delusion that this result will be any different than the previous ones. Within the first step, the passage which describes the addict's life as being unmanageable refers to the lack of choice that the mind of the addict or alcoholic has as concerning whether he can use again or not. The core of the spiritual malady is considered in the 12 steps groups to be self-centeredness and narcissism. To be a good addict, you have to be a narcissist, and the world has to revolve around you. It's all about me, me, me. It has to be that way in order to get the drugs you need and find the ways and means to get more. You're like an infant where everyone serves at your will, at your beck and call. And you have to learn to give that up. The process of working the steps is intended to replace self-centeredness with a growing moral consciousness and a willingness for self-sacrifice and unselfishness. In 12-step groups, this is described as a spiritual awakening, and it usually develops slowly over a long period of time. A sponsor is generally a more experienced individual in the fellowship in recovery who guides the less experienced aspirant or sponsee, as they're often called. Their goal is to share their experience, strength, and hope, and facilitate the journey through the 12 steps. Sponsors and sponsees participate in activities that lead to spiritual growth, such as literature discussions, study, meditation, and writing. There are some very good 12-step workbooks that help the individual do this in a formal process. The best way to choose a sponsor is to go to a meeting. Many meetings actually. Listen to the discussions and the comments. Find someone whose opinion you respect and maybe who has a life that you would like to emulate, and ask them to be your sponsor. There's a saying in AA and NA that goes as follows: meeting makers make it, and that's certainly the case. It's been my experience. That's why I place the emphasis on the 12-step program, even more importantly, I think, than counseling. Because the 12-step program is a lifelong process that doesn't involve another individual that you have to pay for, or office visits, or it's a tool that you can go to for the rest of your life, and it doesn't cost you a dime unless you want to donate in the basket. The first time I went to rehab and was exposed to the 12-step program, I thought it was a cult. I'm not religious, so I thought this God business was BS, and so that turned me off to it, and I had to go out for 9 or 10 more years of pain and suffering before I found the willingness to maybe look at it a second time. If you need help finding a meeting or advice on how to choose a meeting or a sponsor, I'd be more than happy to talk with you here at the clinic. We can obtain your zip code and print out an extensive meeting list, so you have a lot of choices to choose from. I also have on occasion taken individuals to my home group meeting in Wadsworth, and would be more than willing to do that if you're intimidated by going to a meeting on your own. So I'd like to welcome you to Courage to Change Recovery Partners Clinic. I look forward to working with you in the future. I hope you have a clean and serene 2013. Thank you.